Thanks for joining me today again. I was pleased to have signed an executive order renaming the Executive Office Building in Rockville for former County Executive Leggett. His path was not an easy one, yet he did not let the obstacles stop him. His successes are quite remarkable. It's incredible to think he didn't even put a photo of himself on his original campaign literature so that people would get to know him without preconceived ideas. Or to put it more bluntly, he wanted people to have the opportunity to hear what he had to say before they judged him based on the color of his skin. Throughout his political career, Ike was intent on working with people every step of the way. His legacy is that of a leader who shaped Montgomery County in profound ways. Ike has always been a champion for equity, inclusion, and opportunity, principles that are core to who we are as a community. His unrelenting commitment to serve, his leadership during challenging times, and his dedication to lifting up every resident left a legacy that will continue to inspire us. The county's executive building will now stand as a tribute to Ike's remarkable service and the path he forged for future generations of leaders. We will have an official ceremony in February in conjunction with Black History Month, which will be another chance to honor Ike Leggett. I want to congratulate our new County Council President, Kate Stewart, and Vice President, Will Jawando. Since joining the Council in 2022, Kate has consistently demonstrated her commitment to fairness, honesty, and results. We've built a productive working relationship rooted in shared goals. Her collaborative leadership style has been critical in addressing key issues such as improving public safety in downtown Silver Spring and the Melanie Diaz Fire Safety Act that strengthened tenant safety. I look forward to working with her in the year ahead as we navigate state budget concerns and the impacts of a new federal administration and Congress, along with the opportunities the county has that will foster our work to continue growing our economy and growing our affordable housing supply. I also want to congratulate Will Jawando on his election to Vice President. Will's steadfast commitment to progressive principles is evident in his work, and I'm proud of the work we did together this last year to pass the historic rent stabilization legislation, which provides critical protections for renters in Montgomery County. I'm optimistic about what we can achieve together as we work to meet the challenges and opportunities ahead and continue building a stronger and more equitable county. This week, I joined leaders from around the region at the Capital Area Economic Forum in Vienna, Virginia, hosted by George Mason University. We discussed the challenges we face together and the opportunities we have to work collaboratively to address them. One key takeaway was how interconnected our region is regarding transportation, housing, and economic development. These issues don't stop at county or state lines, and our collaboration is essential if we're going to address them successfully. There's a lot of discussion about issues facing the regional economy. No surprise, some of the discussion focused on potential changes to the federal workforce and the potential implications for all of our local economies. The impact is hypothetical at this moment, but we are aware that if actions match some of the rhetoric, it would not be a positive impact on the local economies, regardless of which side of the river you're on. The health of the metro system and the necessity of ensuring that we can keep it operating and meeting the needs of our region were also discussed. And that transitioned well from another meeting this week focused on metro funding. I feel like we have a better idea of the magnitude of the problem, but not yet a solution that everyone can agree on. This problem needs solving. Metro needs funding to ensure that it can adequately be maintained and that it can achieve the level of service that it was designed for. We were reminded Monday that regional forecasts show traffic becoming 47% worse in the future than it is now. Imagine where that number will go if Metro is not able to function adequately. That will lead to more gridlock and extended rush hours. A nightmare scenario like that could harm our region's competitiveness and impact our ability to improve our economy through job growth. Decisions that impact its efficiency and capacity are in the regional hands because Metro serves all of us. I find it encouraging that we have so many people participating from the region who are committed to taking the long view of how Metro can service us all. I want to thank George Mason University, the Stephen Fuller Institute, and the Center for Regional Analysis for convening this gathering and all the work they do to monitor and analyze regional economic development trends. To see more of the work they do and produce, please visit sfullerinstitute.gmu.edu for more information. Last year, an anti-hate task force that included members from the African American, Black, Latino, Hispanic, and Asian American Pacific Islander, along with the LGBTQ+ and Jewish and Muslim communities, was created. One of the point of agreement among them all was the need for an easy way to report hate and bias incidents. This week we launched a new website, portal, and forum to help the public report hate bias incidents. These reports can be made anonymously, and they will be included in the total tally. The form is the same whether you're a victim, self-reporting, or a witness. The drop-down menu at the top of the form page allows you to select dozens of languages. A link to the form is currently on our homepage. You can also call 311 locally to report an incident by phone. While we're already collecting reports of incidents, many of them still go unreported. Our county's Faith Liaison, Kate Chance, talked about this during my weekly media briefing, and here's a clip from that.
And we know that all of our communities experience hate and bias, but we don't always see those experiences reflected in the data that we collect around hate bias in the county. For example, this year has been really challenging for our Jewish and Muslim communities in particular, and we're hearing constantly about the experiences of Islamophobia and anti-Semitism.
The more people are aware of this resource, the better we can accurately gauge hateful acts and bias activity impacting our residents. Please help us spread the word about this new reporting system. Cold weather's back, and we're well below our average high temperatures. In fact, we've been under an extreme cold alert warning. When the weather gets this cold, we are most concerned about those who are staying outside without shelter. During an extreme cold alert, shelters remain open so individuals can get inside. Outreach workers work to urge those living outdoors to come into the shelters. During the winter months, shelter capacity is expanded. The homeless information line is 240-907-2688. It's open at all hours and every day of the week. If you see someone you're concerned about, call the line and an outreach person will follow up and try to find the person and urge them to go indoors. Every January, we participate in region-wide count of people experiencing homelessness. In 2024, we counted more than 1,100 people, an increase of 28% over 23. If you go back to 2020, the homeless population is up 71% in Montgomery County. Family homelessness is 47% higher in 24 than it was in 23. Meanwhile, evictions have increased for the past 2 fiscal years, and there are more than 130 households on the waiting list for rental assistance programs. We recently requested $3.5 million in a supplemental appropriation from the County Council to keep up with the increased demand to rehouse families, provide rental assistance, and work to prevent evictions. Some of those funds would go to a program called SHARP, Short-Term Housing and Resolution Program, which provides up to 12 months of rental assistance and navigation services for families to get them into permanent housing immediately, rather than relying so heavily on motels for temporary housing. SHARP recognizes that it's much better for families in crisis to have a longer-term home rather than just a motel room. Remember, the extreme cold puts people in extreme danger if they don't come out of the cold. Sometimes they won't respond to our efforts to go inside. If you want to help, please remember to speak kindly to them and encourage them to take advantage of the things the county does that can help them. Our community service partners who've been in the front lines of the fight to end hunger in Montgomery County are getting some help. Late last week, our Office of Food System Resilience announced that it was awarding $3.5 million in grant money to food assistance providers. Money will support 48 groups which collectively serve about 165,000 people every month. This assistance can't come quick enough to the partners and providers we work with. According to the Capital Areas Food Bank 2024 Hunger Report, 34% of Montgomery County residents are considered food insecure, an increase of 7 points from the 2023 report. These grants are one way that we help support Montgomery County's Community Food Assistance Program, which helps maintain a solid foundation of assistance service for residents. More than 60 sites are currently tied to school-based food assistance programs, while other grants focus on helping improve health through food. Collectively, this work closes service gaps and helps collect data on hunger issues in the county. Often around the holidays, many people are inclined to donate their food, money, and time to help those who are hungry. But as we can clearly see, this problem is a year-round problem. As much as we think about those struggling during this time of year, I hope that people can make a New Year's resolution to assist however they can throughout the year. The need is there, the need is real. Please do what you can. For more information about how you can help, please contact the Office of Food Systems Resilience at montgomerycountymd.gov, OFSR. This week, bus riders were reminded of an important anniversary through signs announcing Rosa Parks Day. Her brave act of resistance against racist policies occurred on December 1st, 1955 in Montgomery, Alabama. She refused to give up her seat for a white man and to go to the back of the bus, as she was ordered to do. Every year, our ride-on buses display her photo and give a brief summary of why her arrest was so important. It was one of the sparks that ignited the movement that led to protests across the country in the fight for civil rights. Civil rights reform did not come easily. When I was growing up in the 50s, almost every major social and civil institution opposed civil rights. The Democratic Party was not the party of civil rights. Every battle to provide freedom and the full rights that Americans were supposed to enjoy was hard fought. The truth is that the end of slavery did not make black people free or equal, or raise the barriers to equal rights that were erected throughout the country, including Maryland. The barriers and the consequences of past injustices still exist today. A few years after the Montgomery bus boycotts, I attended the March on Washington. Later, when I went to the University of Maryland, I joined other students and faculty to fight for the desegregation of housing and employment in Prince George's County around the University of Maryland campus, as well as at the university itself. University recruiters told black high school students that they should attend the other black schools in the university system and that they would not be welcome in College Park. We often think of the civil rights struggle being a problem in the states in the Deep South, but Maryland's and even Montgomery County's own history was just as bad. If you grew up in the 60s and 70s and watched TV, you'd see white mobs objecting to integration and harassing black students in the ugliest of ways all over the country. It was hard to understand the intolerance that fueled the dehumanizing policies that made it so hard for black families to find jobs, buy homes, and build wealth. But racism was taught, reinforced with bogus science, and that poisonous ideology was inflicted on so many of the students I went to school with. And I think a lot about that because I'm sitting in classrooms with other 11, 10, 12-year-olds, and the ideas and the things these kids were saying, they weren't coming from something they had thought out. They were coming from something they were told. And kids absorb sometimes way too much of what they're told. And this racist nonsense that was fed them was one of those things that got too much absorption. I honestly don't think many Americans and more recent immigrants know about or saw the racism that was so openly expressed, and therefore have no sense of what black people had to, and in some cases, still have to endure. I'm glad to see how much has changed in our county and throughout the nation, but racial bigotry and inequity still exist. Although it's been nearly 70 years since Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat, her life and actions remain an example of why it's important to speak up, demand change, and stand your ground when challenged. She was right to break the law when the law was wrong. Let me leave you this week with one of my favorite quotes from Rosa Parks. I've learned over the year that when one's mind is made up, this diminishes fear. Knowing what must be done does away with fear. You must never be fearful about what you're going to do when it's right. So that's a wrap for today. I hope you have a great week, and I'll be back again next week.